date and time is on the bottom of this video, demonstrating the faith as a Christian and how it works. Hop up little bunny, hop hop hop. Hop up little bunny, hop. Hop up little bunny, hop hop hop. Don't you stop. So when I was taking care of my daughter as a single mum for 10 years, God enabled me to have a miracle because I kept begging God, knowing that her father is an atheist, for pardon and forgiveness because I divorced him. And I'm a Christian. And said, please God forgive us for our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. I carried on seeing him, but what I was unaware of, I didn't prevent my daughter from seeing her dad. She saw him regularly, but he was the one who reduced the child benefit. And because it's institutional racism, the government allowed him to reduce the child maintenance. This is how racist the English government is, and how they have imposed systemic abuse on me for this reason, that I divorced an Englishman and they protected my daughter from his abuse on both of us. So while she was living with me, God had grace and mercy on both of us, and I was unaware that she was destined to go against me because of her DNA. We were deeply bonded, obviously like a healthy platonic love between a mother and a child. And no, I'd never bathed with her. No, I very rarely, actually I don't think I've ever slept with her. She would go into my bed because I was paralyzed from being overdosed with psychotic drugs for a minor personality disorder. And at the end of this video, I will show a letter that proves that they have apologized because they acknowledged that I had systemic abuse and institutional racism. They knew this before I knew this for 2 decades. I didn't even know what it was. I trusted mental health services because I had no choice in the matter to survive. And for counselling, which I undertook for 10 years. But the systemic abuse insisted that they recorded on their records that I did self-harm, and I never did self-harm. It was my husband that I was married to that was harming me and my daughter, us both, my daughter and I and my daughter. This is horrendous, how they target poor orphans and outcasts in society to abuse. Historically and presently, this has not changed. And how they enable abusive fathers to abuse their daughters after the divorce because he's not having sex or stability, security. He came to take out his frustrations out on me, and the system enabled it. They empowered the abuser. So while he was seeing her, and while I was drugged to my eyeballs by wrong diagnosis, I did not have a minor personality disorder or a delusion disorder. I was forced to carry these labels when in fact what I did have was post-traumatic stress disorder. It was as if some battlefield or some type of weapon had exploded in my face. And I was treated less of a woman. It destroyed my womanhood. It destroyed my civil rights, my human rights. And of course, I'm going to publicize it, whether they like it or not. This is like a heavy weight, but it's actually sticky sellotapes, sticky labels. Using that to keep my Bible open. Pause. I'm going to use this card to pause so that the audience who means me well and who does listen and respects me can pause. I can't believe how cruel and nasty this country is towards migrants living in England that don't agree or don't accept this type of treatment. No one would accept this treatment. The only way they get away with it is because they know I don't have a big family, and that's why they target the orphans and the outcast, because they know we're vulnerable, we don't have a big family. They wouldn't do it if I didn't have a big family and thousands of people in a community. Since I don't have a community, and since I don't have a big family, they've targeted me. And God says, do not fret, do not be afraid, because you're not an orphan anymore. You have God as your father and your heavenly mother, your parent. Until, of course, they've put secret surveillance cameras, removed my privacy and my daughter's privacy, where they forced my daughter to have a demon. So all people who are in poverty who have had their privacy removed is the same as murdering somebody's spirit, a body that has a spiritual body and physical body. It's the same as murdering us. It's the same because we cannot have that privacy. America has invented materials that cannot be seen by a naked eye, microscopic materials that can go and do surveillance and spying on people. They can plant. So if you've got your window open, going in a car, or a window open or a door open, going in your car, going out to do your work, you have to go out. Or if you're disabled and bedridden or chair-ridden or housebound, you still occasionally open your window. And then these microscopic creatures that has been invented can come through your window, go onto your eyelid, and it can insert a camera in your eyes. And I suspect that that's what's happened to me. I shut my eyes and I could see a black spot that looked like a camera in my eyelid, which was in this eye, not in this eye. So this is how creepy the surveillance system is, and I couldn't believe it. And I kept telling myself, this is not real. There's something wrong with my eye, my right eye, recently. I've never seen this before. However, when I close my eye, I can see what looks like a camera lens inside my eye. This eye, which is my right eye. Like a black little circle inside my eye, on the side of my eye. And I kept rubbing it to make it go away. It would not go away. And I could see it in my eye. So they've put a secret, they're using some type of a drone, like an insect. You know, you have the propeller where they've invented the helicopter using an insect. And also the way a mosquito inserts and injects. They're using this type of new drone system. We can insert and inject itself or camera into your eyelids. This is something from a futuristic fictional type of information I'm providing to the members of the public. But they've probably put my social media in the toilet or in a loo roll. So only they are important, only they are beautiful, only they are right, which is totally satanic. So whenever I say, I am right because God made me right, I am good because God made me good, that means nothing. My suffering means nothing. My long suffering, my endurance, my goodness, and anything that I have done in the name of God means nothing to the world and to society, because they practice cancel culture and they are forcing this satanic world system to remove all humanity, all truth, and obliterate every type of God, head, the omniscient one. So that now that they will accuse me because I've used social media, and everything about technology is 100% evil. But how will people know unless we are being warned? These are the consequences and the result of taxpayers paying these tyrants and occultists. You would never guess that they're the occultists. They come across as normal. I've got this tube where you pee in and you then throw it out the window. No, I haven't. That's a joke. I would never do that. I would throw it down the toilet and then wash it in boiling water to sanitize it. I haven't used it yet. It's brand new. So you put your pee hole there and pee. But they're saying, oh, because you're using social media, you're evil and God is not going to love you anymore, and you're going to be an orphan and outcast again, and you're not going to have a God the Father and God the Heavenly Parent anymore because you're using technology. You can't have two gods. You can't have technology, which is based on money, and the Bible at the same time. You have to have one master, not the other. That's how these Christians are accusing me now. You can't listen to secular music because most of it is satanic, quote Christian. You can't use filming or horror movies or pornography because it's satanic, quote Christian. You can't do Bible reading in the public because you will be arrested. You need to have a license to be speaking about the Bible, praying. You're not allowed to pray in the public, quote Christian. And a lot of these Christians are condemning Muslims for praying in the public. You can't do this. You can't do that. And they're absolutely right. You can't do that at the basic and intermediate level. However, when you have been through being isolated and socially excluded for 2 decades and have been as a prisoner for Christ and have been denied or rejected, dismembered all over the place, you then go into solitary confinement. You go into self-shielding because your immunity becomes very weak. And you wait for God's grace and mercy and anointing to go out into the public and put a warning, as I'm doing. So I can do it because I'm at the advanced level with Christ for my persecution. And I can do that which the intermediate and basic Christians have told me I can't do. So I'm turning around and looking at them and saying, since you've told me I can't do this and I can't do that, you're wrong, because you're ignorant, and you've ignored the fact that I have been cured and I have been blessed by God, past tense. And I acknowledge that I would receive new condemnations for using technology. I acknowledge I would have new smear campaigns through technology. I acknowledge the risk to my life. However, I'm already dying. I would rather die for Christ than to live for the devil. So since it's a both parallel universe, dying for God and dying for the devil, I acknowledge these risks, and I'm doing an act of martyrdom. So it's my choice to, once in my life, look at pornography and study it, scrutinize it. When I had physical pain, I'm not going to have physical pain and physical pleasure without God. So it's the same as going through Sodom and Gomorrah. You're not participating in it. You're not agreeing with it. You're condemning it. And I did that once in my entire lifetime. And then when I finished my research, I threw away the technology and decided that it is better to have your mobile phone destroyed than to have a laptop or computer or iPhone or some type of iPad, which is a lot bigger and a lot more expensive. So obviously, it is better to lose or have your device tracked and traced and destroyed by the enemy that is smaller and less expensive compared to the bigger one. And I said, I've done my research, I've seen enough, I don't need to see any more until and if God blesses me in the future to have a partner for life of the opposite sex, if that's meant to be. So this is before I went on technology, which I started in 2016, and I'm still on it in 2026. Before 2016, it was 2020, 14, 15, in those 2 years, had consulted the Holy Spirit and revealed to the Holy Spirit what the demons are doing. And I wanted to know the truth. The truth sets me free. Is it meant to be for me to have a new partner in life of the opposite sex? Should I do it, since so much of my life has been destroyed as a result, the consequences? And I don't deserve to have any other true love, or I deserve to be in prison forever with Christ because I insulted God for marrying an atheist. And I said, God, what's going to be? Is it meant to be for me to be remarried and find my true love? And do I go on dating agencies and all of this? There was no answer for the dating agency because I've never been on it. However, there was an answer from the Holy Spirit regarding being restart in life, being a new creature through Christ, being enabled to find friends and family that could be part of the Christian community, that is not a bully, that is not partial in judgment, that is not poisonous and toxic, narcissistic, sociopath, psychopath. However, it was impossible for me to it was impossible for me to find a Christian community that was not politically affiliated. Maybe I did come across them, but I wasn't allowed to subscribe to them because then my phone would suddenly be destroyed. It was weaponized. The phone was weaponized. It was as if it had a weapon inside it that it could suddenly make the battery, make the phone too hot and explode, or it would weaponize my phone by destroying my keyboard, even if I've switched off the emojis. And even though I've switched off all the settings, that's a total lie. It's a total fraud. When the consumer believes that you're in control of your device, you're not. The government is. And every time you update the phone, the more control they have for the government. And when you don't update your phone, the criminal has more control of your phone. Since the government is worse than a criminal, since the police officer is worse than a criminal, so since politicians are worse than a criminal, I'd rather not update my phone. So what they're doing is stealing from the saints by saying that they can willfully break the Ten Commandments and still be protected, which is a fraud. They have made laws to protect themselves and to be impugned. They're impugned criminals. And they're saying, oh, look, God has blessed us because we're safe. If we're not, hello, we're safe. We've committed a murder and we're safe, We're impugned criminals. Also, these religious fraud nutters who are paying these criminals by taxes to protect their children are a fraud Christian. And so I'm staying away from them. They're saying it's okay to support a demon governor because you can protect your family from being executed and your family from being separated and all of this nonsense. They decided to bow down to Baal, so they're fraud Christians and many fraud religions. Regardless of what they have been brought up in and born into, you could be born a Muslim, you could be born a Judaic Jew, you could be born a Buddhist, you could be born from whatever family. God's spirit of truth is available on everybody. Pause. See, God also says, be careful of the Pharisees. So the Pharisees are these sinners who are the dog-cat type, and I think the Sadducees are the sinners who are the cat-dog type, both of which are sinners. However, you also have a satanic middle. And Jesus Christ made it clear to me that there is a satanic middle. In the part of the Bible, is it Corinthians, where I have read recently, God warns and says, do not be unequally yoked or be with the sinners who are in the middle. Sort of, we're lukewarm, yay or nay. I will be humbled. I will sort of do God. Lukewarm. Not sure. Depends how I feel, or how my dick feels, how my vagina feels, how my body feels. So this is demonic when the flesh dominates the spirit. It should be the spirit that dominates the flesh. So if your spirit is constantly attacked and you constantly feel spiritually drained, emotionally drained, logically drained, your spirit body then needs to eat, it needs to drink more, it needs to find natural remedies to remedy your ailments. But that is not available in the normal NHS. The normal NHS and hospitals are totally demonic. They also enable smear campaigners, Satanists, to play with your vein in your arm, take your blood, steal your blood, and take it to a satanic ritual. My bloods went missing on the 10th of February. They took my blood from my vein, and it went missing in the lab. It disappeared. Where did it go? To King's Charles? Hello, King's Charles. Can I have my blood back? Can I have my blood back? Woohoo! Woohoo! What the hell? I mean, they get to make rules and break rules for the secret society using professionals as a body shield for these Satanists. I can't believe this. I can't believe it's like a double parallel universe. It's another reality where they're the untouchables, they're the invisibles who can dominate people in this reality. So these laws and these principles, as a citizen in the United Kingdom, England, does not apply for people underground and who are secret societies. It's not the same. It's a different law. It's a different life altogether. And that's why I have done a video recently regards Michael Jackson, that there was his lookalike, there was his twin who was totally evil, who had a different reality, and who was probably abusing those children to ruin Michael Jackson's reputation, because they knew that Michael Jackson was loved by everybody, so they also wanted to make another Michael Jackson that is hated by everybody. So because they want this to happen on all of God's people. So for example, they found me, who is a devout Christian, so they want to make another twin of me, in other words, clone me, to make someone who is my twin, identical twin, that everybody hates. And I'm saying, you can't do that, Satan, because everybody hates me anyway. Oh, and I said, it's God who has my original DNA, my mind, my soul, my spirit. So the soul is not the same as the spirit. The soul represents the personality and the character, which can be corrupted when you are with other characters who are perverted. So purity can be perverted when God is not guiding it, when that living source is interfered with. Purity can be perverted. Innocence can be destroyed. And the perverts know this. They've tested it on children. And so when there is this sort of fraud equilibrium, they want to make this perfect balance for the devil, not for God, for Satan, the hell angel, to say that when a person is rejected in society, in the natural realm, reality, they want to make a supernatural realm where I'm loved by everybody in society, but it's still for glorification of hell angels. It's like drinking the blood of a hell angel to have life. It's like it's a vampire. So the hell angel who calls itself a god with a small g, or a human who calls itself a god with a small g, is a perfect creature vampire that says you can live on their blood. You don't need the blood of Christ. You don't need Christ, because they're the new Christ and they're the new God that everybody's going to worship to receive mercy, grace, glory, beauty, youth, the living blood source from a hell angel, which is a fraud Christian, a fraud Christ, and a fraud God through the hell angel. And all of the bad human beings, particularly the blonde, the more beautiful you come across on the outside, perfect body shape, perfect all of this, with the flesh and the blood and the bone, the more you belong to Satan. So that's why God says the number one enemy is arrogance, even more so than aggression, both of which are demons. So these demons who have kidnapped my daughter in 2014, before they kidnapped her, I already knew that they were going to kidnap her 2 years before, God told me. Because the education system is full of demons and full of smear campaigners and full of very evil teachers that would totally disrespect the parent and will teach the child to disrespect the parent too, which is what their community does through children's social services. So it's double trouble. So the more modern the Western civilization is in United Kingdom, in England, in Canada, in Africa, wherever you go where there's white people, what makes it a scum of society is that they implement these Satanists to cause a dysfunction in the system through the robot and in the routine of people. So go to work, go to the bank, go and do your shopping, education system, hospital system. So it's a ritual, it's a routine to worship Satan, the hell angel, where money becomes the god and the man bringing the bacon and the bread on the table. And so they're saying, I must be satanic because I eat pizza and I eat pork. No. God says you will walk on serpents, you would eat poison and still not be affected. And you will blend in their society. You would come across as one of them, but you're not one of them. You're in the world, you're not part of the world. And so this is why they have instilled this poison through the NHS, through the education system, through any system, particularly new technology, emails, and registering with a GP, online facilities that everyone has to do it, so that we all come into a group sex or into a group mindset for worshipping and submitting to the satanic system and royalty and LGBTQ. So they're not royals at all. And yet they would find somebody in the history books that they fancy and put their fantasy into reality and say, this is me, this is my ancestor, and it's a total fraud. Or the man would dress up as a woman and call itself royal titles, and it's a total fraud. And yet people are falling for it. People are accepting it. The fame and glory of Harry and Meghan is disgusting. And any fame of the royalists in England is disgusting. And Parliament and the police. It's all part of the same globalist satanic movement. They're all in it together. It's against humanity. It's against holy freedom. It's against the mother and the father and the family unit. When they say that they're there for the family, it's only for the money and the fact that they're taxpayers. They're not there to support the poor families. So all of this coming together as one comes into a bigger ball for the majority to destroy the minority, as in my case. So you have, God says, be careful of the yeast of the Pharisees and Herod, who wanted to kill all of the men because it wanted the baby boy, because it wanted to have that dominion against Christ and his disciples and his followers. So everything in the Bible that's being read, so Bible studies, suddenly becomes irrelevant because the entire thing is satanic. Even when I am protected by the blood of Christ, even when God says, I will protect you and cover you with my life insurance, that I have your original DNA, even then, with these protections and these covers, the original technology is still evil to the core. I cannot make a miracle to make technology less evil and less for God, because they've manipulated the Bible, they've changed the message somehow, very subtly, as a subtle bully. They've altered the Bible, they've altered the message. The evil spirit wants to dominate the Holy Spirit, so everyone's confused, they don't know which one is which. The same as they did with Michael Jackson. There's a twin of Michael Jackson. No one knows which one is which, and they're not even aware of the fact that he had a clone twin that was abusing those children, because they hated the fact that Michael Jackson was loved by everyone, so they wanted to ruin his reputation. 70 police in America, 70 different officials, which goes to show, if that's the case for America, it's the case for England. They're all Satanists. They're all worshipping this beast system, which is disgusting, despicable. They may steal my language. They may steal my words. And they may hate the individual. But maybe they've done it already, or they haven't done it. Either way, that's not going to change who they are. God's not going to perform a miracle against anyone who is corrupt, an individual, a group, or a system, without actual submission to God and God's authority. Then there is no change without that submission. So first of all comes surrendering to God, before God will surrender to you. So you have to follow Christ before Christ starts to follow you, and then you become the leader. Greater things will people do, even greater things than Christ did, through God's miracle. And so the chosen ones can become unchosen ones for the free will, since God will not convert anyone. It's not a conversion. It's a free will. So the computer and the system does not have a free will. It is programmed. And that's why it is evil forever, because it is programmed by evil that disguises itself as good. But still I use it because I want to deeply penetrate. How deep is their hate? There's a song that says, how deep is your love? I am asking, how deep is your hate, and where is this going? Who is involved? The aeroplane systems, the maps in the sky, the maps in the sea, the maps on the land is all dominated by Satanists and their secret sect society, including Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton and all of these globalists who ultimately want to dominate the world and all societies, every county, every area, every country, to become the same as Area 51, a Frankenstein government that makes crossbreeds and weird individuals, such as last night. There was this weird individual going around with its chainsaw for about 4 hours in the evening, or even longer than 4 hours, from 6 p.m. until 10 at night. Chainsaw noise going around, which is narcissistic rage. So this is the other side and the other reality or parallel universe that most people are not even aware of, don't even think about. And yet I'm saying you are responsible to think about it, to be aware of it, and to teach the children from a very young age that there's a parallel universe, about this secret society and what it does, and their laws and their evil freedoms that say they have this freedom now to do evil and they will be protected. In other words, impugned. So everything that can be done well in the education system, in the hospital system, well for who? Is it well with you? Is it well with your family? Or is it putting your boss first, your bank first, your baby first, your bones second, or your baby second? So who decides this? Is it God? Or is it these bad authorities who call themselves gods, or narcissists, sociopaths, and very creepy and freaky, insane individuals? Because they're insane, they make everybody else insane. Because they're sick, they make everybody else sick. And this is how they work. And they've been enabled. They've been allowed by the very cowards who allowed them. So the true authority of Christ is to expel the demons. We make the religious place of worshiping God as a hospital for sinner, as a prisoner for Christ, for the humble sinner. And we don't welcome sinners who are not humbled. And those who are humbled, we have to separate the sick from the healthy. If you mix them together, they all become unhealthy. So you are responsible as a priest, as a priestess, as a religious body and royalty, as an ambassador for Christ, to separate the sick from the healthy. If you spend too much time with your personality, your character, that is healthy, with someone who is unhealthy, it becomes sick. If a pure child spends company with a pervert for 1 month, for 1 year, that innocent pure child becomes a pervert. This is why we must separate. So any leader who puts them together is in fact a fraud, and no one from a Christian society should tolerate them. Exclude them. They're the same as a Gentile, the non-believers. Worse than the unbeliever, as in the case of my father, my biological father, not my father from heaven. So I have my answer now. I have gotten rid of Mimaha Punch because it's a stolen ID. I showed it on Facebook and YouTube and Google, and then I made all authorities change it to Mimaha Punch since 2022. But then when I realized that they were looking to change my diagnosis, I had to hide my MRI scan, but they still insist through this Indian scum to have an MRI scan. And I said, look, I've already had an MRI scan in 2017 to 2022. I need to wait 8 years until I have it again, protecting myself from the radiation. I don't want to get cancer. You already have my scan. Why do you want another one? But they keep bullying me, saying you have to have another MRI scan. I said, what hurts me more than my spine at the moment are my feet. They're numb. I feel like I've got cobwebs or hair on my feet. When I move my feet, they feel numb. They're constantly throbbing, moving, toes involuntary. I've sprained my feet, and I'm taking pills for relieving the pain in my feet from the hairline fracture and ligament damage. Because when I returned from decant, there was no one there. Emergency evacuation when my ceiling nearly collapsed in both of my bedrooms, which again was created by a criminal disguised as an accident. That the water tank exploded on the 24th of April 2025, and my landlord still refuses me to give. I've been waiting for more than 11 months for a letter for them to give to me that this accident occurred. It's as if it never occurred. It's as if someone had mopped up the blood scene of a murder and said murder never happened. So they nearly killed me with a sepsis blood infection. And they nearly killed me twice. With a severe fungal infection, bacterial infection, and thrush rush, which is the first time I've had a rush. Attacked my genitalia, shrunk my genitalia, my chest, my breast, there was rush all over it. And I had a very big temperature. The medication was ineffective for 11 months. No, from August until April, until I finally found medication that removed the bacteria. Fungal infection, and it was like a bloody rave. It was all rave. It was like I had rave music or like aggression all over my home. Rave down your ceiling to almost collapse in both bedrooms. And the other thing I've got to chase up is the fire brigade, who then said I had They wrote lying reports and said I had an electrical blanket and a candle that is not battery operated. So they had these lying reports, and I confronted them about that, and then the government destroyed all of the evidence. Here's my battery, which is battery operated, my candle. So then Keir Starmer and the satanic government then destroyed the evidence by making sure I cannot get any compensation, because in order to get compensation and go to the ombudsman, I have to use online facilities. My God, my Jesus Christ. Everything's now done online. So when I'm online, I'm being tracked and traced by criminals, fraudsters, and my actual name, which is Memaha Punch, is an identity theft. So it's catch-22, where it's a vicious cycle to only benefit the tyrant and the accusers and the criminals and the Antichrist. So this country, England, is Antichrist. So I had my new name to start a new life destroyed. I had this new home to start a new life in 2013 to 14, and I've lived here at the same property, second floor flat. That opportunity destroyed. I didn't get a new life. I was even more abused than the original abuser that injected me 115 injections. This situation is 10 times worse because I've got no privacy, I've got no protections, and no human rights or civil rights. I'm a prisoner in my own home by a satanic government. So they've kidnapped my daughter, which is so much worse trauma than I ever had when my ex-husband, my one and only husband, died. They wanted to kill my daughter's spirit, so she died. They've injected me 115 injections to make me die. So they carry on attacking me, even though I have committed no crime, even though I have not hurt or harmed anyone. I've not harmed myself. I've not damaged this property. They're damaging this property. And then when they fix it, they've created another crisis where my mail went missing. Some of the mail I found, the other mail I did not find. They manipulate the post office for my mail when I receive it. They manipulated the education system, the entertainment system on the films and all this. They manipulate. Is there anything that they haven't touched? Everything they touch, they destroy, they betray. And so I don't have a home. I am someone worse than homelessness because of the fact that I have got no privacy, no respect, and no three-dimensional reality. I mean, what's that? It's all a condemnation to appease my bullies who are bullshitting, who are lying, and who are smear campaigners. Since they only worship women who are rich, blonde, blue eyes, or coloured eyes, and light hair. These macho, butch, brutal men, brutes, demand to have skinny women who look the same as skeletons. I mean, Putin is a skinny man and he demands a woman that looks like a skeleton. Putin is a skinny man. He's not a macho man. And I'm sure he's got a small dick. The same as Trump. He probably has I don't know. But a lot of these tyrants have a small dick. They're born with a small dick. My husband had a small dick. It was as small as a little finger. It was abnormal. And also they have a bad body odor, stench. I'm fat, but I don't have bad body odor because they've destroyed my natural hormones. They've bleached me. So it's outrageous what they've done to destroy human race and betray the human race. And yet, they haven't been destroyed in the same sense. Nowhere near in the same sense. They haven't been destroyed in the same sense or betrayed in the same sense because they had someone to bail them out of jail. I didn't. They had more money for destroying someone's life. I didn't. They're extortionists and they're double dealing. So it's all underwater. So this technology is going through under the ocean and it's searching the world for the saints in the rural society, such as me, to insult me, to remove my self-respect. I'm not allowed. To have someone who respects me and honors me and loves me, I'm not allowed. It's all debunked. So unless, of course, I become one of them, and I'm not going to. I was tortured, 115 injections in 2008, which was risperidone, which destroyed my womanhood. Twice for Chris and once for John. From age 15 onwards, with a risperidone injection made for horses, I was forced to take to stop me getting pregnant. So these perverts and obscurists of justice are aliens. They're not humans. These are demons. Their children are demons. Their education systems are a demon. All of everything about them and what they do in their workforces and their weapons are demonic. Even their farms. Even the rural places that they have inhabited are demonic, which is the yeast of the Pharisees. So God has blessed me and my daughter before she was taken away from me. And it was such a relief to have these demons leave my daughter, and she was healthy, happy childhood. It wasn't perfected in materialism, it was perfected in love. And then God showed us in the same year that she was going to be kidnapped, which was 2014, showed us in our faces in the New Testament that my daughter is not loyal to me, that she does not love me, and that she's not going to love me anymore when we are separated. And we looked at each other and said, this is not true. Mum, I love you so much, and Mum, I never want to leave you, she said. This is what all this is saying about me, Mum. It's not true. It's not true. Little did she know that it was going to become exactly true, because they kidnapped her and they've turned her soul. They've turned her life upside down. Everything in that Bible where I have marked, it got soaked wet because I was relocating and it was in a box, and then the box got soaked wet. I dried it and I think I still have it marked. If Thrive Homes, my landlord, hasn't stolen it by then. What I mean by stolen it is destroyed it so that it doesn't exist anymore. They wipe away the evidence. This is what the right government does. It deletes your evidence. It's a cancel culture where the right is worse than the left government. So any evidence you have is destroyed, so it's as if it never existed. This is why I don't like my local governor, who is an Indian man, Muhandra, or whatever sounds like a vagina. He knew about my shower situation, and then he went over there and deleted all the evidence. I thought, what an idiot. He deleted all the evidence as if there was no problem there whatsoever, that they can't find anything. So now they're doing the same thing with my NHS. They sent this Indian woman in 111, and she said, you don't look that bad. She downsized it. She downplayed it. And so they would write false reports and make me out to be the liar and them as the truth tellers, which is satanic. Which puts me off using the NHS, the hospitals, whether they're free or they are purchased, not free. Either way, it is demonic, because they delete evidence and they write whatever they want as doctors, and they demand to have more money paid, which is a total joke, to destroy people's lives. Eat an apple a day to keep a doctor away, but now they're saying if you don't have a doctor and you don't have hospital treatments, you don't get your money for survival money. They block your survival money if you don't go and if you're not registered with a doctor. Again, a catch-22. You can't get away from these Satanists unless I go in a rural place on an island somewhere where there's no civilization, which is totally unfair. Since it was Christians who designed civilization, it wasn't these Satanists, and yet they're getting all the credit for it. They've stolen that from the Christians. We're the one of the co-founding fathers in America. and the Europeans who have built cities. We've built this city, not you, the commoner, the slang Eastern European, or the slang, not the Eastern European, the slang